Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make organic micro house or minimal house or whatever you want to call it. As always, you can get the project file and samples and MIDI presets from this video and all that kind of stuff in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. And yeah, let's get started. So this is what we heard in the intro. We're at 122 BPM. The first sound we have here is the kick, which sounds like this. So this is pretty straightforward. Truth be told, it's just a clean kick. You can see I kind of shortened it a little bit. And yeah, I've got a little bit of group processing on there because I have it in this bus with the other low-end elements. But like with minimal house, a lot of times, like especially with like Ricardo Villalobos sound, for example, and like that kind of stuff, you know, the kick is very soft actually. Like it's very just kind of chill and deep like this. So you don't need like a whole lot of processing. Again, it's not completely dry. Like if I take this stuff off, it's just not got anything on it, and it's just kind of like a short, deep kick. After that, we have this bass, which sounds like this. So this is also really simple. It's just a triangle wave. You can see for the note, it's just playing F. That's the key we're in, is F minor. But yeah, it's really simple. And then this just kind of comes in the second half. You know, we have the first half, which is a little bit more sparse. And then this is like one of the things that kind of fills it out a bit more in the second half. It's just a very small little bass stab. You can see it's just a triangle wave and operator, but it adds a lot to the groove. And then the next thing that we have after that is this kick bass, which sounds like this. So the way that this is made is by taking a kick sample. I'll show you the sample that I used. There we go. Just like very similar to the kick that I'm using for the main kick. It's just like a little punchy, sort of chill, deep kick like this. You can see I've got it in a simpler here, and then I have it going through some effects. So the first thing we have here is a reverb. You can hear that one. Yeah, I'm just adding some reverb. After that, we have a saturator. Here's without that. And then with it. So you can hear, that adds a lot. Like, I like doing the kind of like saturated reverb or distorted reverb kind of sound. It's a nice way to kind of add some texture to it. Again, you can hear without it. And then with it, it's just really bringing the sound out and giving it kind of a more interesting texture. After that, we have this EQ8, and with this, I'm just boosting the low end just to kind of add a bit more, because this is still like the bass. And without this, you can hear it's just a little bit thin in the low end. So that low end boost really helps. And then the last thing I have on there is just the utility. And with this, I'm just converting it to mono using the left ear because this is a bass. And you can hear the stereo bass doesn't sound that good. Especially like in a club, that would be just really messy. So then I have a low end bus here with all those elements I just showed you. I'll show you, here is what all that sounds like with no processing. Versus with it. So you can hear it's really tying everything together. So the first thing we have here is a drum bus. Here's without that. And then with it. So you can hear that just really fattens everything up. And kind of ties it together a little bit more. And then after that we have the EQ8. And with this I'm just cutting out some sort of muddy frequencies at like 255 Hertz. Or at 255 Hertz. And then I have a low end boost as well. So, you know, it just kind of brings out what we want. You can hear this really helps with making that kick bass sound a little bit less muddy. And that is it for the low end bus. The next thing that we have here is this little noise tom, which sounds like this. So this is that little sound that you just hear at the start of the groove. And the way it's made is using operator. You can see I just have the notes in here. That's pretty simple. I mean, that's just the notes as you hear them. Nothing too crazy there. But what it is it's some white noise. And then I have that going into a bandpass filter with a pretty high resonance on it. And then you can also hear we have a bit of an envelope on that. So that's what's kind of giving it the sound. And then you can see I have the filter frequency being automated. So that's what's like making it move like that. And then on top of that, I have this LFO, which is just modulating the filter really fast. So it just kind of makes it sound even more like wonky. And cool, you know, it's just a nice way to make a sound like this, but make it a little bit more interesting. You can hear it totally works without that. But I feel like that just makes it stand out so much more. After that, I just have a bit of echo, just doing dotted eighth notes to give it some kind of space and make it ring out a little bit more. Then we have a drum bus to fatten it up. Here's without that. And then with it, this is really important for like if you're trying to make the percussion with operator or with any synth, drum bus or any kind of saturation is a really good way to get it away from just like that dry synth sound and make it sound more, you know, percussive. And then the last thing we have in there is just an EQ8 to cut out the low end. And that is it for the noise tom. The next thing we have here is this little noise hi-hat, which sounds like this. So what this is this is just sort of like an extra little background hi-hat. Like we have the main one, which is playing on the upbeats. And then you can see this is just adding some extra notes in here. But then what's happening is I have a bunch of automation on it, which is making it sound really like, kind of like it's evolving and like really organic and stuff. So what's going on here is I started with this kind of sound. If I just take this. Yeah, it's like a little tiny hi-hat like that. And then what I did was I automated the decay time. So this is just some white noise going into a bandpass filter. And then I have the decay time of the white noise being automated. So you can see that. And then what's happening here is I have the release all the way up. So when it's really short, you're not really getting that. But then when it's really long, that's how you get those like long held out notes. So, you know, just kind of a cool way to bring it to life. And then I also have that going through, like I said, a bandpass filter. You can see I have it set like this. And then I'm automating the bandpass as well. So it's just like a lot of movement. But this really helps to bring it to life. You know, stuff like this and the noise tom, which have like kind of some automation on them and aren't just like really straight, really help. Like you can hear if I turn those off, it's got a nice groove. But then listen to it with those. You know, it's the stuff that really brings it to life because it's constantly changing and evolving, and this is what makes it sound organic as well. So that is it for Inside the Synth. It's actually really simple, but then after that, I just have a bit of a saturator to beef it up a bit. Here's without that. And then with it, again, very good way to sort of get rid of that like dry synth sound. Then we just have an EQ8 cutting out the low end, and then I have this auto pan, just kind of slowly moving it, you know, back and forth from the left to the right here. And then the last thing we have on there is I have a compressor side sending it to the kick. Because without that, the long held out noise was getting a bit messy. But this kind of keeps it, you know, under control of the groove. After that, we have the clap, which sounds like this. This is really simple. It's just like this kind of small clap sample. Just got it in here. Just playing on the 2 and the 4. This one's really more about like the style of sound. Like if you want this kind of more like laid back, kind of chill groove, you just need like a smaller, kind of more chill clap like this. Kind of like what I was saying with the kick, you know. And another thing you'll see is I have this a little bit before the beat. So if we set this to the quarter note grid, you can see this is like right on the beat. I have that a little bit before that. And what's happening there is you can hear it with the kick. Making it hit a little bit before that. So you can hear if I make it like right on the grid, the clap doesn't stand out as much. But when it's a little bit before, you know, it kind of puts the clap in its own place in the mix. So it's a nice thing to do. After that, we have the hi-hats, which sound like this. So what we got going on here is basically we just have 2 hi-hat samples playing on the upbeats. We have this one, kind of like a smaller one, and then this one, which is like a more full 909 hi-hat. And what's happening here is in the first half, we have like the small one, and then the big one comes in. So it's a technique that's used a lot in minimal house. Ricardo Villalobos does this a lot. A ton of other producers in that style do it as well. It's a really good way to kind of like have more energy. You know, it's like this part. this is definitely like a solid little minimal groove. But then all of a sudden when you get to here, and the bigger hi-hat comes in, and that bass stab comes in, it really fills the groove out. So that's kind of like what you're playing with here is dynamics, because minimal house is, by definition and by its name, minimal. But by kind of doing like subtle things like this, you can really bring your tracks to life. So those are the hi-hats. The last little percussion sound that I have here is this sort of, I called it a shaker. Here's what it sounds like. So you can hear what that's doing. It's just playing these little like syncopated kind of notes here, you can see. And for the sound on this one, I made it using operator. What this is it's just some white noise going into a bandpass filter. And then you can see with this one, the bandpass, I have the resonance like all the way up. And then we have this erosion on here. So here's without that. And then with it, so you can hear the erosion is a really good way to give your percussion like that really digital and more metallic kind of texture. And also just kind of get it away from being just like white noise percussion. You know, we've got a lot of white noise going into bandpass filters in this project file. So it's kind of a nice way to just make it a bit more interesting. So that's the erosion. After that, I just have a bit of echo to give it some more rhythm and kind of space. And then the last thing we have on there is this auto pan. And I've got this so it's just kind of like going back and forth from the left to the right ear. And just moving the sound along. So then I also have all that percussion in a bus, and I'll show you, here is without the processing. And then with it, so it makes a big difference. So I've got a drum bus on there, and then I have the CQ8. Pretty simple stuff. Drum bus, just fattening it up a bit, kind of making everything have a bit more power. And the EQ8 just cutting out the horn. Simple stuff, but you can hear the difference there. And that is it for the percussion. The next thing that we have here is the pad, which sounds like this. So I'll show you the notes here. It's really simple. It's just playing two chords. We have an F minor, and then we have a C minor. And I've just got some like kind of different inversions and voices going on here. So you can see with the F minor, so here would be just like a regular F minor chord. We have F, the root note, G sharp, the minor third, and then C, the fifth. I added a few voices in here. So I added an F up top, and then I added this G, which is just one semitone down from the minor third, G sharp, but this is a ninth. So those kind of like, here's just like the F minor chord. And then with those. So you can hear those really add a lot. And then for the second chord, it's just a C minor chord. You can see, and it's the same kind of thing. I've got the ninth there, and then I've got a C up top. But with this one, I moved the fifth down an octave. So, you know, just kind of small stuff, just makes the pad sound a little bit more interesting. For the sound on this one, I made it using analog. And what we have here is just two saw waves going into a bandpass filter. You can see I've got a very small amount of an LFO on the filter. And then we just have a bit of vibrato. And that is really it for the synth. With this one, it's more of just like kind of a chill, quiet sort of background sound. Like, you wouldn't want to have this really loud in your mix. It's just kind of adding something musical, because otherwise, it's just the rhythm section. So this is adding that. But yeah, and then for the effects on this one, you can see I just have a bit of chorus, pretty simple, gives it some more kind of space. Then we have a compressor side chaining into the kick, and then I just have an EQ8 cutting out the horn, and that is it for the pad. And then the last layer that we have here is this vinyl noise, which sounds like this. So this is definitely very popular in minimal house, you know, putting some kind of noise in the background, whether it's vinyl noise or some Foley sounds or something like that. Can really bring your track to life because it gives it kind of atmosphere. You know, I'll show you, like, here's without that, and then with it. It's really adding a lot. So what we've got here is I have this sample. There's the original sample. And what's happening here is I have a low pass filter just dialing it back a little bit, and you can see we also have that resonance boost. And then I have that going into the saturator. And so what's happening is that big resonance boost on the auto filter is basically just sending more signal at that part in the frequency spectrum into the saturator. And so you're getting like more distortion and more saturation and more crunch right at that range. So that's what gives it that kind of nice like crispy texture. And then I just have it sidechained to the kick to make it fit into the groove. And yeah, that is it for this one. That is all I've got to show you. So, as always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Let me know what you want to see me do next. As always, you can get the project file and samples and MIDI and presets and all that kind of stuff from this video in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it'll all be available there shortly. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody. And I will see you tomorrow with another video.